What's cracking, big dogs? Welcome back to the HQ. It's your man's Nicholas. Big dogs gotta eat BDGE fantasy football. We're here for another fan submitted Q&A video, and as I mentioned last week, I'm gonna be I did this on Saturday last week, but I'm gonna move them over to Thursday and then do my DFS, my top DFS plays and wide receiver cornerback matchup sheet on Saturdays, because a lot of the questions I got last week were about Thursday night football players, and obviously if I release that video on Saturday, then I can't talk to y'all about Thursday night football players. That makes sense, right? And if you're seeing this little bit in the camera, guys, your man's done sold out. I upgraded my production value. So we have we got a mic here. This is the Snowball, the Yeti Snowball with a pop filter. I don't really even know what this thing does, but it looks professional as hell, and I feel really cool talking into it. What's cracking? So basically, we upgraded the audio, so hopefully this works. And we also got my man Scott. Thank you, Scott, for reaching out. He's going to be taking over the editing portion of my videos. So basically, I was like, Scott, you want to do this? Cool, let's do it. I'm going to give you the reins creatively on how you want to edit my videos. And then I said, we'll let the audience decide. So as we're going through the video, I need help from you guys, just letting me know different things that Scott does that you either dislike or you like, and just drop a comment down below, because we're going to try to get this process moving quickly. Obviously, the less I have on my plate in terms of editing and that creative side of things, the more content, the more research I can do, the more videos I can bring out to y'all. So as we go through the video, one, give that thumbs up to Scott. Give that thumbs up to the video if you enjoyed and you find this information valuable. Two, let me know anything like issues or things you like or dislike about the audio or the editing that goes on throughout the video. That's really it. That's all I got for y'all today. So let's just get right into the Q&As. First off, if you want to submit a question to get answered and featured on this video each week, you have to go to my Facebook page. That is facebook.com/BDGE Fantasy Football. That will be linked below, and send the page a message. There should be a menu that pops up that has one of the options that says like answer my Zam question. So click that, ask your question, hashtag answer my Zam question at the end of it. Make sure, guys, when you submit these questions that you are giving me the specifics of the questions. And by that, I mean the league type and the guys that you are choosing between. Give me their matchups as well. So if it's, Jimmy Garoppolo at home versus Detroit this week or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So just give me all the information I can so I don't have to go out of my way to gather all that stuff. That is the only thing I ask. And obviously, guys, since this video is being shot on Thursday, don't ask me questions about sit starts on like Saturday, because that obviously won't get into this portion. And also, when you submit the questions, please just give me the week that you're asking the question for, because I'll get flooded with inbox questions, and I'm not even sure if they're pertaining to last week's or this week's or next week's questions. So that's the only thing I ask for you in terms of technicalities behind the questions. But let's jump right in. First question is from my man Cody. Thank you for the question, Cody. He says, hashtag answer my Zam question. I really like Tyrod Taylor this week against New Orleans, and I know it's early, but I'm deciding between Case Keenum and Tyrod with Carson Wentz out. It's regular scoring format for quarterbacks. The first thing I would say is, one, Carson Wentz probably does not even need to be owned at this point. Reports are saying that he might be back as far as mid-October, so you can drop him for a few weeks, and if you want to pick him back up before he comes back, I think that's fine, but that's not the question. Question is Tyrod versus Case Keenum. Now, these are two of my guys that I really liked in terms of waiver wire pickups this week. And I will say, since it is regular scoring format, in a 6-point per passing touchdown format, I would go with Case Keenum here. I would lean Case Keenum. And you didn't put the matchups in here, Cody, so make sure you do that next time. But I know that Case Keenum is going against this Oakland defense. They let up a couple passing touchdowns to Jared Goff. They didn't look as bad as I expected them to be, although LA did lean on the run heavily, so I guess Jared Goff's stats couldn't be padded too much. What I will say is I really like Case Keenum this week. However, I would lean for Tyrod Taylor. The reason being, in a 4-point per passing touchdown league, obviously these rushing quarterbacks have a little more upside. And Tyrod Taylor obviously comes naturally embedded with some rushing upside there. He went for 77 rushing yards and a touchdown last week against Pittsburgh. I think you're going to see a lot of the same against New Orleans. They are in the Dome, which means that's usually an upgrade to runners and an upgrade to a guy like Tyrod Taylor, who will probably appear faster on the turf. Now, they play at New Orleans again. Vegas expects this to be another shootout, right? They had the Saints versus Bucks game at an over-under of like 49 or 50 last week, and they have the same for the Saints versus Cleveland this week. They're in New Orleans. The over-under is about 50, so Vegas does expect another shootout. Tyrod and the Browns should be trailing. They are 9.5-point favorites. Obviously, that was the same case for the Bucs last week, but I expect it to be more Saints favored this week, and I think they kind of get things back together on the defensive side of the ball. But that should mean a lot of pass attempts for Tyrod. That should mean a lot of rushing attempts for Tyrod. I think this offense, while they might not perform efficiently, I think they are going to put up statistics here. So Tyrod would be the play in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues. I would lean for Case Keenum in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. Thank you, Cody, for the question. Moving to question number 2, we have Tim. What's up, Tim? He asks, I have Matthew Stafford and Marvin Jones, who definitely underwhelmed this week. Do I ride it out or look in another direction, thinking about trading for Case Keenum? Because I also have Emmanuel Sanders. Hashtag answer my Zam question. Okay, so I'm getting a lot of questions about being nervous about Stafford, about being nervous about Jones. For Stafford's sake, I am not ready to write him off yet. He still has one of the easiest early season schedules. This Monday Night Football game, a lot of things like this tend to happen in week 1, and there are a lot of overreactions to it. Same thing with like Tampa Bay and New Orleans, and we see a lot of players that kind of emerge and teams do well or underperform, overperform, or whatever. And I want you not to get too crazy out of control with this one, because Stafford, the rest of his schedule, or at least the next like 8 games, he goes to San Francisco, good matchup. New England, very much a shootout potential in that game. He goes at Dallas, which is probably one of the tougher ones. Then he plays at home against Green Bay, Miami, Seattle, so a lot of good matchups coming. I still think he has great weapons in terms of Tate, Galladay, Marvin Jones, like you said, on your team. So no, I'm not worried about Stafford yet. I'm not worried to pull the reins on him. The other thing, the other part of this question is you wanted to trade for Case Keenum. Guys, I can't emphasize this enough. Do not trade for quarterbacks in a 1-quarterback league unless you're like in an 18-team league and you're super desperate. Trading for a quarterback, you're going to end up giving an arm and a leg. And it's the same thing for the tight end position. You're better off streaming, because if you're trading any skill players for a quarterback, you're going to end up giving up too much, and it's for a position that you can find weekly on the waiver wire, because there's going to come a time when Case Keenum has a really tough matchup, and then you're like, oh shit, you know what? I wish I had just picked up someone else, right? And then all of a sudden you traded a skill player for a quarterback that you're not even going to be able to start. So no, don't trade for a quarterback. What I will say is Marvin Jones. Am I nervous about him? I'm a little bit nervous about Marvin Jones. I don't want to overreact here, because we do get a lot of nice matchups, so we'll probably see him with bigger games. However, we're getting a bigger and bigger sample size of Marvin Jones's production with Kenny Galladay on the field. Now, we know his PPR points and his just his fantasy points in general dropped off last year in the 5 games in which both of them played. I think it was like a 5-point drop off in PPR points. And then on Monday Night Football, we saw Galladay had the biggest game of the 3, or he had a bigger game than Marvin Jones did, and he might be more involved in this offense. So we're getting a bigger sample size, but that being said, Marvin Jones did get targeted a lot down the field. He had a few end zone targets and a bunch of deep ball targets. So Stafford's clearly still looking his way downfield. They just happen not to connect. So those will start coming into it. All 3 receivers play all the time, basically. They're always in 3 wide receiver sets. The production will come for all 3 receivers. So I'm not selling low on Stafford. I'm not selling low on Marvin Jones, but Jones is a little bit more worrisome given Galladay's production while both of them are on the field together. So Jones is a guy I'm a little bit nervous about. Stafford, I'm good. Do not trade for Case Keenum. Thank you for the question, Tim. We'll move on to question numero tres from Brian Goodwin. Was good, brother. I see you in that. Is that a Bears uniform? I think it is. Looks like a Bears uniform. Either way, first of all, nice side part. Second of all, you must be happy as a Bears fan after that first week showing. You asked, should I start Andrew Luck or Pat Mahomes this week? Standard scoring, hashtag answer my same question. Well, first thing I'll say is I actually am in a super flex league where I have to start both guys, Patrick Mahomes and Andrew Luck. Definitely could have worse problems. So the short answer is this. I would be playing Patrick Mahomes over Andrew Luck. And there are a few reasons why. First of which is, just like Tyrod Taylor, Patrick Mahomes has that inherent rushing upside in him. And you said it's a standard scoring, so I'm assuming that means 4-point per passing touchdown. So rushing yards and rushing touchdowns are valuable, if not more valuable than passing scores in this type of format. So we look at Mahomes, right? He is a good runner. He scored 22 rushing touchdowns over the final 2 years at his college in Texas Tech. So those rushing yards and those rushing touchdowns are going to come throughout the course of the year. And he didn't get one last week. He had 21 rushing yards, which is an extra 2 fantasy points for you. But I expect more of that to come, and especially in this week where they travel to Pittsburgh. And that's what I like most about his matchup. And you can see by this tweet from Connor Allen, who is a contributor for Roto World and a bunch of other fantasy websites. He's basically saying that the Steelers score a ton of points as an offense when they are playing bad teams at home, right? That's what this tweet is saying. And that's what we have for this week. Pittsburgh is playing at home against a bad passing defense in the Chiefs, who just allowed over 400 passing yards to Phillip Rivers. And it should have been more than that, right? They had like 19 passes that should have been caught and should have been touchdowns. But the point is, KC pass defense is bad. Pittsburgh's playing at home versus a bad pass defense. They are almost a lock to score 28 or more points, is what Connor Allen's tweet basically says. So what I expect is the Steelers to score a lot. And what I also expect is for the Chiefs to throw haymakers of their own and come back and rush down the field and use Patrick Mahomes all over and let him chuck it up to Tyreek Hill. And on the Tyreek Hill note, dude, I feel like y'all ever played last few versions of Madden? I don't play Madden anymore, but a couple of years ago they had like you make like a My Madden player and you could choose to be whatever position you want. And if you chose to be a wide receiver, right, they give you the route that you're supposed to run in the game, but like realistically you control the player. So if they give you a slant route, you can, whenever you want, you could just like take it up for a Hail Mary and then call for the ball or whatever. You don't actually have to run the route. I feel like that's what Tyreek Hill does, bro. I feel like Every receiver has a route to run. They're just like Sammy Watkins, don't go do nothing over there and be a distraction. And they're like, Tyreek Hill, just get open. I feel like that's what Tyreek Hill does, right? He's running like slants and then just cuts back and then goes deep on like random ass plays. That's why he's always open, and that's why he's always connecting on deep passes. And it's just like crazy. I really feel like they have no plan for him other than they're just like, go do your thing, Tyreek Hill. So I expect the Steelers to score, and I expect Mahomes and the Chiefs to answer back, and I expect this definitely to be a shootout here in Pittsburgh. So Mahomes would be the player for me, also because Luck has a tough matchup. He's on the road against Washington. He put up decent numbers last week from a fantasy perspective, but he didn't look amazing, right? He threw the ball 53 times, so I would hope with 53 pass attempts you could put up 20-plus fantasy points. Washington held Bradford. Bradford's obviously trash, but nonetheless, they absolutely obliterated Sam Bradford and this Arizona passing defense. So Washington has an underrated pass defense as well. Not a good matchup for Luck, better matchup for Mahomes. So Mahomes is the play there for me. Brian, thank you for your question, sir. Dylan, was good, brother? Says, answer my damn question. What do I do with Alex Collins? I'm a little concerned after this weekend that he only had 7 carries and 3 Ravens running backs had touchdowns. Do you think it was just the game script working against him? Also, do you have any concerns about Amari Cooper after his poor performance Monday night? Would love to hear back from you. I've been playing fantasy football for 11 years now, and this is the first year I had heard of you, and I really like how your analysis. Sick of the ESPN analysts. Well, thank you, Dylan. I appreciate the kind words, sir. So there's 2 questions, basically the concern level of Alex Collins and the concern level of Amari Cooper. Now, if you just looked at the box score, obviously you'd be concerned about Alex Collins, but Alex Collins was the clear-cut starter here. He started the game out, and I think when he first came over to Baltimore last year, one of the issues that kept him off the field was fumbling issues, right? Ball security was a little bit of a problem for him. In this game, most people didn't watch this through. They just saw what they saw on Twitter, and that was it. What I would say is this. There was a miscommunication on a handoff between Flacco and Alex Collins, like in the first quarter. And the ball came to the ground, and that wasn't the fumble everyone was talking about. But that also did happen in the first quarter, so that was more concerns. In the second quarter, he did end up fumbling the ball and losing the fumble. So that was what everybody was talking about being benched. I don't think anyone went back and watched the game because Alex Collins, look, the fumble happened in the second quarter, right? The next series, Buck Allen took over as the running back and played that series. However, before halftime came, Alex Collins was back on the field again. So people are like, oh, he was benched for the rest of the second quarter. No, he came back on the field and played again. So the fact that Buck Allen took over for a series and everyone is declaring that a benching, then you would have to assume that Alex Collins was going to get benched 50 times this year because I'm sure Buck Allen was going to take over a few different series. What I saw was this. I rewatched all the games. I rewatched this game in particular to see the Ravens running back situation. Alex Collins looked good running from what I saw. He was their clear number 1. He had a really nice touchdown run in the beginning of the game. By the time they were up at halftime. They were up 26-0 at halftime. There was no reason to continue using him into the second quarter. What I will say is my concern level is a lot less now because Kenneth Dixon is going to be missing some time, right? I talked about this in my waiver wire video on Tuesday. The Ravens said he has a knee injury, which, again, will cost him some time, and that is obviously not good because some time usually means an extended period. That's going to be week to week. Anytime you have these midseason injuries, they tend to linger. So it's really going to be the Alex Collins and Buck Allen show. Buck Allen is definitely going to be playing a major passing down role here, but I do think Alex Collins is going to get early down passing work as well as most of the rushing work because Allen is not efficient whatsoever on the ground. Collins is. So as long as he doesn't keep fumbling the ball, I think Alex Collins will get a boost thanks to this Dixon injury, and I think he is still the clear-cut starter here. So I'm not concerned about Alex Collins as much as most people who just looked at the box score are. I think in PPR formats, Buck Allen needs to be owned. I think that Collins, obviously, his value takes a hit because Suck Allen will take a lot of the passing work. But in like standard leagues, even half PPR leagues, I'm still cool with Collins. I am not worrying about it as much. We'll see over the next few weeks as they take on real opponents like Cincinnati on Thursday Night Football. Collins is not a great start on Thursday Night Football against Cincinnati. It's just a tough matchup overall. But over the next few weeks, we'll see closer games, which means we'll be able to tell the game script, and we'll be able to tell more of what they want to do in the running game. So I'm definitely holding on to Collins. I'm not worrying about him. In terms of Cooper, yes, I'm very worried about Cooper. He was not someone I was high on going into the year. The only reason I was like, okay, thinking about him at his 4th, 5th round ADP was because the volume should have been there. That was not the case on Monday Night Football. I will say, though, of course, the Rams have a ridiculously good secondary in terms of their cornerbacks, so it was tough for Cooper to get separation. It was tough for Cooper to really produce. However, you got to catch more than one pass. You got to have more than, I think, what did he end up with? 1 of 3 targets for 9 yards or some shit? He looked horrible in that game. So did Derek Carr, which is another concern. So, yes, I am worried about Cooper. It was a tough matchup versus the Rams, but now he goes to Denver, where he has had literally no success in his career. So you look at these splits, and you're looking at his games, just his career games. This is, on the left side, it's him versus Denver. The smaller sample is him versus Denver. The other side is him just versus any other opponent. And clearly his fantasy numbers are much better when he's not playing against Denver. That would make sense considering that Denver has always had a very strong pass defense. And when you look at these splits, go a little further, look at him when he travels to Denver. His numbers are even worse, and that's what they're going to be doing this week as they travel to Denver. Cooper ran 45% of his snaps from the slot in this previous week, which is more than he normally does, and that means he will see a ton of Chris Harris Jr., who is arguably one of the best slot cornerbacks in the NFL right now. So my concern level for Cooper is definitely a real thing, as well as he is definitely a must-sit for me in week 2. You do not want to play him at Denver against this pass defense. The concern is real. I mean, the schedule does lighten up, of course, for Cooper, but he still has to play the Chargers twice. He has to play Denver twice. He goes to Baltimore. He goes to Arizona. And his fantasy playoff schedule, weeks 15 and 16, is at Cincinnati and then against Denver. So if you could sell him now, I would probably be looking to do so on Amari Cooper. So thank you for the question, Dylan. That is my answer. Before we move to the last two, guys, a lot of you guys, reach out to me via social media, Twitter, Instagram. Obviously, I can't get back to all of you. As my audience is growing, it's hard for me to answer all of you guys, and I try to do that as best as I can. But there is a way that you could pretty much get guaranteed answers from me, and that is on patreon.com/BDGE. So if you subscribe to me or if you donate to me via patreon.com, you'll see different levels that you could sign up for. I give away my weekly rankings. You can find all of my weekly rankings, including flex plays, on patreon.com. Each Thursday, I will be giving out my weekly rankings as well as my master stat sheet, which will include red zone, snap touches, snap count percentages, and all regular fantasy stats and whatever. It's just one master sheet that has it all for all individual players that's filterable, as well as a private live stream. So if you are a Patreon or a patron of mine, as they call it, you get a private live stream each week, which if you're seeing this on Thursday, I did it last night. Every Wednesday night, I do a live stream for my patrons only. My regular YouTube subscribers don't have access to it, where you can ask me any questions that you want. So I'll be answering any questions on Patreon. I'm very, very involved in the community and the questions that are asked there, as well as the questions that are asked on the live stream, of course. So patreon.com/BDGE, you could sign up there if you want, access to me, access to my questions and whatnot. But let's move to the second to last question. Austin Green, what's up, my man? Thank you for the question. He asks, need a streaming defense for week 2 because the Saints fucked me. Who you streaming? #answer my Zam question. So I forgot to put a streaming defense in my waiver wire video on Tuesday, which I will try to do from now on. Now, streaming defenses. I like to give you guys options that are owned in 55% of Yahoo leagues or less, so they're probably available in your league. So what I did was take a look at the ones that are available in less than 55% of leagues, and as you may or may not know, when I stream defenses, I usually look at 3 criteria. 1, you want to play a team that's the favorite to win, of course. You don't want to play an underdog. There's no reason to do that. 2, you want a team that's playing at home, and 3, you want a team or a game that's a low over-under total per Vegas. So last week, my 3 favorite plays were Baltimore, New Orleans, and Green Bay. So obviously Baltimore and Green Bay hit, New Orleans did not hit. Now I streamed in most places that I was able to stream a defense or that I didn't draft a defense. I ended up streaming Green Bay and that worked out fine. They ended up with 9 fantasy points. So this week I was looking at a few of the teams that fit the criteria that are not owned in 55% of leagues. First is Atlanta. Now they're at home, 6-point favorites against Carolina. Now I don't love this pick at all. I would not recommend this considering they're without Keanu Neal, they're without Deion Jones. It's an in-division game. Usually the in-division rivalries end up taking turns for, there's no way of predicting those games, and Cam could go off for 40 points on any given day. The next option, which is probably my favorite streaming option at this point, is the New York Jets. Surprise, surprise. They are at home this week, 3-point favorites against the Miami Dolphins with an over-under of 44 points, which is average, if not below average, for an over-under total. And you guys could find the over-under total. I honestly think if you just go to ESPN.com and then go to NFL scoreboard, in each matchup, they'll tell you who the favorites are and what the over-under of the game is. So you don't need to go to a sports betting website to check that out. But the Jets, right? They actually looked very, very good against Detroit on Monday Night Football. Obviously, Detroit struggled mightily, but the Jets were getting pressure. They were getting interceptions, right? They actually looked like a legitimate defense. And this Dolphins offense is obviously not a powerhouse by any means. So they're not very good. I think the Jets will be able to kind of handle them. And, at home, low over-under total. I kind of like how they have this set up here. Third option here is San Francisco. They're at home against Detroit. 5.5-point favorites, but they do have an over-under total of 48, which is kind of high. Now, the thing about San Francisco is I tend to, when I'm making these choices, I tend to try to stay away from defenses that I think are actually not good real-life defenses, right? It's a lot of the reason why last week I was getting a lot of questions like, oh, should I stream Detroit or Green Bay? And for the most part, I was like, I understand that Detroit is at home, and I understand that they are pretty heavy favorites, but Detroit is a really shitty defense, right? And that's why I was like, Detroit would have been my 4th pick of the streaming defenses behind Green Bay, because I don't actually think Detroit is a good streaming defense, a good actual defense whatsoever, and I'm kind of in the same boat when it comes to San Francisco. So I don't think San Francisco is a good defense in real life, so I tend not to stream defenses like that. It is a high over-under total, so they're kind of expecting a shootout there. So I'd probably stay away from San Fran, but they are another notable defense on this list considering they fit my criteria. In your personal case, Austin, right, since you asked the question, you said you had New Orleans last week. So if this is my team, if I'm being completely honest with you, I'm sticking with the Saints. And I know that probably leaves a sour taste in your mouth, but they are at home again against Cleveland, and they are 9.5-point favorites again. I know this literally was the same exact setup as last week. I know that it's going to be hard for you to put them back into your lineup, but if it's my team, I'm going with the huge favorite in New Orleans. Again, the over-under was very high last week, so Vegas did expect a shootout. That suggests that they expect a shootout, and it is high again this week. However, that 9.5-point favorite is very hard to ignore when you're streaming defenses. So New Orleans is not going to be available in most leagues, I'm assuming. But since you already have them on your roster, they would be my top play. My second play would be the New York Jets. If you want to fade them, I would understand that. They are only owned in 17% of Yahoo leagues. So New York Jets would be my streaming option from a man Austin, as well as any of you guys that are looking to stream. And we have the last question. Before we get into that question, though, I do want to thank today's sponsors for the video. That is fantasyjocks.com. They are the industry leader when it comes to league gear for your fantasy football league, as well as fantasy baseball, basketball. I know fantasy baseball has got to be wrapping up soon, so if you want a belt, a trophy, a ring for your baseball league, they got those as well. And they have all this stuff, and you can get the team's name engraved on the equipment. So it's very customizable. It's very, very, very high quality products, guys. I've been using this stuff for my big money leagues and all of my leagues pretty much for the last 4 or 5 years. I would not throw this stuff out to you guys if I didn't use it personally, and I didn't think it was good for my audience, and I don't think you guys would enjoy it. So FantasyJocks.com. Have everyone chip in your league $5-10 and get something awesome that you can pass around from year to year. Let your champion represent your league. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so much better when you're playing for something on the line. So you can use Take 10 or Taco Corp promo codes for 10% off your order. Your boys got you. And thank you, FantasyJocks.com. Link will be down below. Guys, I know you guys keep asking for timestamps. I've literally had timestamps in the last like 4 videos, and you guys keep commenting timestamps. Like, they're in there, bro. Just turn your brain on. Turn your freaking brain on. Freaking sharks with freaking laser beams, bro. Timestamps are in the description, y'all. Love you. Let's get to the last question, and that is from Lucas Calloway. Cute little kids you got in your picture, man. Cute kids, Lucas. From Asheville, North Carolina. What's up? Answer my Zam question. After an impressive week 1, am I crazy for wanting to start Chris Thompson as my RB2 over Devonta Freeman full PPR? Are you crazy? Don't you know I'm loco ese? I don't think you're crazy whatsoever. I don't think you're crazy at all, and I would make that move in a second if I'm you. Hear me out. Actually, this is probably the majority. I think most of you guys would probably play CT over Devonta Freeman this week. With Geis out, we clearly saw that Chris Thompson is going to be used as heavily, if not more so, this year than he even was last year. And CT Crunch, as we like to call him, is a fantasy monster when he's being utilized in a medium to high volume role. And we saw it last week. CT basically said, fuck a statistical regression, bro. Y'all analysts can sit here all you want. I feel like the entire theme of the summer was people just fading players because statistical regression has to happen. Like Tyreek Hill said, fuck y'all. Chris Thompson said, fuck y'all. Todd Gurley said, fuck y'all. And then everyone I drafted was like, fuck you, Nick. I'm not going to play up to my standards because you know nothing about fantasy. And I'm like, Zam, y'all played me. Anyways, CT. What I'm absolutely most excited about as a CT owner, I'm not a CT owner anywhere, unfortunately, but if I was, what I would say is that the game script in week 1 could not have been worse for him, right? They were up 21-0 at halftime. Adrian Peterson saw 28 touches in this game, and Chris Thompson still managed to get double-digit touches, 11 touches, 5 carries for 65 yards, more importantly, 6 receptions for 63 yards and a score. So 128 total yards on 11 touches and a touchdown in a game in which the game script could not have been worse for him. So what happens when they're down, man? Chris Thompson is going to be getting upwards of 13, 15, maybe even 17 touches. So Chris Thompson's efficiency has gone nowhere, despite the fact that he had a serious injury last year and they said he wouldn't be full health until November. Looks like he's at 100% if you ask my humble ass opinion. So Chris Thompson is looking good. And as far as I'm concerned, he is an every week must start in PPR leagues until he proves otherwise or until he gets hurt, which, you know, could definitely happen. But CT over Devonta Freeman. And you look at Devonta Freeman, although reports are saying that he is healthy or he's okay after the injury scare last week and that he should be suiting up against Carolina this week. Dude, I think it's a PCL injury, and I was looking at some tweets from Evan Silva, and he said PCL injuries are something that usually need to be kind of monitored throughout the year, and it could hurt him as the season progresses. Now, it's a tough defense in the Carolina Panthers, and I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if we saw the split between Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman be like 50-50, if not even in favor of Tevin Coleman. So I'm a little bit worried as a Devonta Freeman. I keep saying this, but when I say as a Devonta Freeman owner, I mean like for those of you that own him. I actually don't own Freeman in any of my leagues, thankfully, because I am concerned. And, he's going to be playing at less than 100% against a pretty good Panthers run defense. So that being said, yes, I would absolutely go with Chris Thompson over Devonta Freeman this week in a PPR league. Lucas, thank you for your question. So that is going to wrap up the Q&A portion of this video, or actually just the video in general. On Saturday, I will have my top DFS plays of the week, as well as my wide receiver cornerback matchups. And, in these videos, I probably won't do anything like must start or must sit this week or, trade targets. But as you listen to the things I'm saying throughout these videos, you can pretty much get an idea for the guys I like going forward and the guys I don't like and the guys I like for specific weeks. So they're all kind of mixed into one video. that will wrap up this video. Again, guys, if you enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. If you're listening via podcast, let me know how the audio is. Leave me a rating and review, please. I hope this mic worked. I don't even know if I was capturing the audio correctly, to be honest with you. Also, drop a comment down below. You can leave sit starts. Again, I will answer as many as I can for free as time permits. But if you want guaranteed answers, patreon.com/BDGE is the place to go for y'all. And again, if you stayed this long, I always appreciate your support. I appreciate your time. I do not take it for granted. So I love y'all. Good luck in week 2. And make sure you drop that thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. And that is it. Peace.